so for hips, let's start lying down entirely. So once we're all the way down to the floor, let's bend up both of our legs. Take our right foot over our left thigh. All right, so I'll show you from this side. And then from here, you can thread your arms through, interlace your fingers behind your left thigh, and pull. All right, so gently pull. As you pull, you should feel the stretch run down the outside of your right leg. Also, when you pull, you can use your right elbow to gently push your right knee back. Flex your both feet, right? So they're not kind of loosey-goosey. You flex, they're intentionally engaged. And as you pull your left thigh closer to you, you gently push your right knee back. You can even get a hamstring stretch by straightening out your left leg and gently pulling your leg closer to you. Once you've held that for a little bit, we can bend this left leg. Let's move into just an IT band stretch. Keeping the same configuration of leg, we'll move our bundle of leg over to our right hand side. So your right foot should now be on the outside of your left thigh, and can use your right hand to gently apply some pressure there, giving your leg a little bit more weight. Take your left arm out to this side and look past your left shoulder. You get an IT band stretch along your left side, and you have this nice little mild twist in your spine. All right, so after this, you've held it a few breaths. We can take this configuration of leg, bring it back to center where we were, and we'll continue this cross. Let's first move this right thigh so our right and our left thighs have no gaps in between. Take our hands to the opposite foot, right? The foot should already be there. You can take an overhand or underhand grip. I personally prefer to go overhand, but that is your choice. And then your heels will want to drop down to your butt. What you want to do in this reverse butterfly stretch is pick up your heels and pull your heels apart, drawing your legs into one parallel line, right? Heel, knee, knee, heel, and you pull from there. Apply a little bit of pressure from the side view. Your heels, again, should not be down close with your butt. So let me give you a quick visual check. What your heels will want to do to feel comfortable is drop down. You want to lift them up, pull apart from there. All right. Very, very carefully, very slowly, I'm going to go back to my original position. Let's try straightening out one leg, and then we'll do the other. So let's do our left leg first. For me, this left leg for this cross feels a lot more accessible, but you want to move quite slowly as this is a fairly deep stretch. And again, you want to hold a little longer than I'm holding at the moment, and then do your right leg. And then you'll bring it back. Once you give it one more gentle pull, send your tailbone back closer to the floor. Let's release this grip of our feet, but we'll continue this cross, all right? Well, we have our thighs crossed. We'll now attempt to cross this right foot underneath our left ankle. So now we have a double cross, right? Cross of our thighs, cross at our ankles, and we'll take this bundle of leg, right? We often hear this called eagle legs. We'll take this bundle of leg and move it to our left-hand side. So tee out your arms, hips slight right, legs over to our left. And this gives us another little spine twist. In your spine twist, just check your right shoulder will want to lift up off the floor. So you want to just drop it back down and then let your legs kind of naturally move over to your left. And once you've held it a few breaths, you'll gently undo and unwind your legs entirely. So I'll go through the other side, maybe not as slow. Interlace your fingers once you've crossed your left foot over your right leg. And again, you can keep your right leg nice and straight, extending your right heel, the sole of your foot up toward this ceiling, and then pull, right? Use the help of your arms to pull. When you use your left elbow to push your left knee back, yes, you're pushing your elbow against your knee, but you really want to think of this inner thigh as rotating open, right? And these exercises you can do also upright, so that adds a component of balance, but that's a nice one to do upright as well. And then once you're done with that, bend this right leg, take this configuration of leg and move it over to your left. So as you do that, this left foot stays just outside of your right leg. You look past your right shoulder. You use this left hand to give yourself a little bit of added weight. And then from there, we'll bring this configuration of leg back through center. And we're going to continue the cross. So take this left thigh, cross it entirely over your right. And now we'll take our hands to our opposite foot. They should be right there already, right? Do the overhand grip if you can. If not, grabbing onto your heels is great as well. It sort of depends on how you want your arms to work. I like the overhand grip, but you can decide what works better for you. Separate your feet, separate your heels as much as possible. And then we'll do the straightening out of our leg. Right, maybe you do your right leg. For me, this side it's the right leg that's more accessible, and then bend, and then we'll do the left. This side is quite a bit tighter for me. So again, if that is the case for you on any side, you want to be super gentle, moving at a controlled pace. All right, once you've given it a good couple of breaths, going past that point of slight discomfort, I would say, then you gently release, and we'll continue the cross left over right, of course with our thighs already there, and then left under right to get the eagle leg. And we'll move our hips slight to our left, our arms tee out right and left, and then we'll drop our legs over to our right hand side. Look past your left shoulder, and this left shoulder will want to pop up. Just gently lower it back down. Feel that stretch. And let's come back through center. Release your legs. I'm just gonna roll myself up. A good one to do that you might experience in a lot of yoga classes is Malasana too. So your feet are about, let's say 16, 24 inches apart, heels and toes out, and you're just letting your hips sink down, all right? And then once you're there, bring your hands into the prayer position, not allowing yourself to collapse. Use your elbows to again push your knees apart, but beyond that, sit yourself up a little bit taller. And I'll show you from this side, it kind of makes quite a big difference once you're in that position, right? So maybe when you initially set yourself up, you're a little bit rounded, right? And that's totally understandable, all the things. But once you're sort of in a good place with your legs and you feel kind of relatively comfortable, you want to use your elbows to push your knees back and think about opening up your chest, right? So if you have words written on your shirt, you want to make them very readable to anyone who's looking at you from the front, right? So all of a sudden, when I push my knees back with my elbows, I open up my chest, I get taller, I feel the broadening of my collarbones, and that lift all the way up down my spine. And this one you can hold for quite a long time. This done on the floor would be your frog. So make sure you have a bit of padding underneath your knees. You can start with sort of just a tabletop and just inch your knees apart and move from there. You want to check a couple of things though. Your knees in the same line as your hips. So oftentimes when you do this and you feel comfortable, it is because your hips are too far forward or too far back relative to your knees. So this should not feel comfortable. This should feel mildly uncomfortable. So once you separate your knees to your maximum, just check, right? Whether it's with a mirror or just your own self-check, that your knees are in line, your hips are in line with your knees. You can come down to your elbows. You can even come down and forward, whatever floats your boat. Try also flex your feet. Try also your heels. Not try. Make sure your heels are in line with your knees. So you have 90, 90, 90, 90 degree angles everywhere. You're gonna hold this for probably longer than you'd like, just so that your body has time to absorb. Right? Anytime we hit something that feels uncomfortable, our instinct is to retract. Our body's instinct is to retract. What you want to do, though, to actually improve is to stay, right? So you hit that point where your body is like, hey, this is not really feeling great. Take another breath. Mentally, you have to remind yourself, this is okay, I'm in a safe place, and allow your body to soften, right? It's not going to be easy to improve if at that point of discomfort you take yourself out of the position. So especially in these deeper poses and a lot of these hip stretches, hip openers are all kind of deep. So you want to give yourself a little bit of time. And even if that means you do just one exercise as opposed to like 5, okay? And then to get yourself out, after you've held it for quite a while, I would even time yourself. You can prop yourself back onto your hands, and you'll want to shift your weight forward so it's out of your legs, just so that you can sort of bring your toes in, bring your knees back in, and feel okay. So we can continue on then. We're a little bit more warmed up, loosened up in our hips. We'll just start with our soles of our feet together and our knees pushed out right, left. You can bring your left hand close with your base behind you, and the right hand, rather than straight up on your knee, maybe toward your like inner thigh area, and push that away. Right, open up through your chest. This gives you an opportunity to lengthen your spine as well. Right, so another opportunity to notice if your natural inclination when you twist is to round. You want to start to train your body to lengthen before you twist. And then let's do the other side. Use your left hand to push your left knee, your left leg out of the way. And again, rather than collapsing, think long, think tall as you twist. All right, so we'll go into some deeper stretches here. You want your right shin to be parallel to the top of your mat, meaning your heel is not close with you, it's kind of away from you, right? It's not gonna feel very comfortable. This is your double pigeon. Your left leg just the same. You're gonna stack your heel on top of your knee on top of your heel. Now, again, your natural inclination will want to be to go to your crease, right? So your left foot will wanna go to your right crease, leg crease. You wanna go on top, feels a little bit less comfortable, but now you're stacked sort of in a box position, and I'll show you from this side. So your leg parallel to the top of your mat, and you're stacked, right? If you bring your feet in closer, this will feel quite a bit more comfortable, but we're not going for comfort here. We're going for a nice deep stretch here. So once we're there in that place, let's use our hands behind us to prop, right? So all the words written on your shirt are very visible to the person in front of you. And preserving all of this, let's hinge, right? So when you're hinging, it's easy to start to round because it does not feel very good. We want to do the best we can to lift and then gently hinge from there. Even if it means I'm stuck sort of in this place, that's totally fine. If you find that your left leg is super propped up and it just won't go down, I sometimes like to just take my left forearm and place it on top. Okay, so that gives me a little bit of extra weight, and as I bring myself forward, I feel like I can go a little bit deeper. You don't have to, that may or may not work for you. You want to maintain basically the length in your spine though, for sure. Always your chest forward of your legs, right? Never collapsed, never crunched. I think always long chest, right? And then of course, let's switch our sides, right? You might want to straighten out your legs, bring some blood flow back, and we'll switch out our legs. So I'll bend our left leg, parallel, 90, 90. And then do the same thing, stack, stack, right? So not coming into our crease, that feels a lot better. I wanna go completely stacked, and this right knee on top as well. So lift up tall, and I'll notice that this side is a little bit tighter for me, and that's okay. You have to be gentle with it, but also it's a tricky thing. You want to be gentle, but you don't want to always give in to your body as well. So I've been nursing this injury for a little bit, but at some point you've got to like kind of usher your body along, and we say we don't really have that much time for this, so we've got to move. And in which case, after a little bit of encouragement, I've found that I can get myself back to kind of where I was. But then again, that's totally up to you, and you know your body best, whether it's a time to push or it's a time to sort of listen, right? Maybe a combination of both, but you know your body best. Always your chest forward of your legs, and allow the stretch to happen. It doesn't feel great, but super good for you. Now, sort of along the lines of what we did earlier in figure 4, in a supine position, we can do that in an upright position with our pigeon. So there are a couple variations of pigeon. We'll do our low pigeon, which is generally the more accessible version. Our front leg will be bent, back leg will be straight. I like to tuck my toes in, come forward a little bit so you can see. I like to tuck my back toes in so I can, as I look past my shoulder, I can just gently inch my leg even farther back. It doesn't look like much, but now I'm closer to the ground, right? Crotch closer to the ground. And then before I go down, I always like to lift up. So push this back hip forward as you lift up tall through your chest. Now, a good way to know whether your hips are square or not is that this back leg kneecap should be facing the floor and not facing out toward the side. So I'm gonna readjust, and this is a good gauge also for square hips in splits. Your back knee should be facing the floor, and your back hip should be pushed forward and down, lift. So it's actually a lot more work, even though low pigeon does seem to be the more accessible. There's still a lot of work to be done. And then again, keeping all of that length as you let yourself come forward. There's a lot of weight, right? It's our own body weight, so it's the heaviest that we could use. Allow ourselves then to just relax into this. And that sounds easier said than done, right? With our body weight pressed over our tight hip, it feels sometimes impossible. So again, the combination of taking those longer, fuller, deeper breaths, especially on your exhales, and telling yourself, relax, soften, scanning your body head to toe, right? Even though we're opening up our hips in this pose, it could be the case that now my glutes are tense, now my legs are tense, right? Because I'm defending against this stretch, right? So try to be aware of those issues or situations that might arise. And once you've held that for a couple breaths, if you're feeling particularly good, first switch the sides, but maybe you can afford to do high pigeon. Now, high pigeon will basically take what we did earlier in our double pigeon, the stack, and do it on a single leg. So it's somewhat more aggressive, right? Because now we're concentrating on one leg. So let me show you on this side just so that we have better visual. But because your top shin is now parallel to the top of your mat, right? Heel, knee is in one line. You want to double check that back knee is facing the floor, and you might find that your top leg, hip area, butt area is lifted up off of the floor. If you have a block, a blanket, something, you can place that underneath there just to alleviate the balance component of it, right? So you're there, and then once you have that blanket or whatever prop underneath you, you can do the same thing, open up through your chest, and then gently come forward. Always to deepen your stretch, you flex your foot back toward your face, and again, chest, always forward of your leg as you make your way down. The easiest thing to do in this to avoid the stretch is to sink into your top leg hip, which you don't want to do. You want to keep yourself relatively square over And with this high pigeon, you'll always know whether you're actually in it or you're letting yourself sink, because one will feel not so good, that's the stretch that you want, and when you let yourself sink, it'll feel not like you're doing nothing at all, right? So that's maybe an exaggeration, but it's quite a big contrast. So you're there for a few breaths. For me, because my hips are tight, this one's actually my looser side, I brace myself. So with this is my right leg forward, I sort of use my right hand to push myself off of my right hip and make sure that I'm square. And the entire time I'm in this stretch, my right arm is working, right, to keep myself lifted. And this, in my tighter side, my left side, same deal. Perhaps I should show you this side, this way actually. So with my tighter side, my left leg in front, again, you're gonna be putting those props, whatever, underneath your left butt cheek. Check this right knee. Kneecap is facing the floor. You can see already my left knee doesn't want to go down, right? So I'm using quite a bit more of strength in my right arm to keep myself propped up, right? To keep myself from collapsing down, right? So it's not a very restful stretch. It's quite aggressive. And actually on this side, at the moment, I am this is my maximum. So that's totally fine. You just want to preserve that length. It's better to have that good form and just work on your breaths. Maybe a little bit. You can come down deeper. But again, I'm constantly using my left arm to help brace here, so I'm not collapsing into my left-hand side. All right, and then once you're done with that, you take yourself out of it. And we'll go back to our Baddha Konasana. With this Baddha Konasana, you can do a variation where your heels are super close to you. This should feel pretty good, right? Your knees dropping out right, left. As you start to move your feet away from you into a more diamond-like shape, you'll see that your knees will want to lift up off the floor quite a bit more. This requires a bit more encouragement. You can use your forearms though, your elbows though, to help push, apply a little bit of pressure as you send your chest forward. After you've held this for a couple of breaths, with your long chest, long spine, you can certainly just let your body do what it will and fold forward entirely. All right, and that's it for now.